Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, episode 1000. We did it. Finally made it to 1000 episodes. It took long enough. Yeah, I approached my 900th episode almost a year ago, and yeah, I slowed down a little bit, but for good reason. We've got a fantastic show for you. I'm going to preview week 1 in high school football, as this is officially high school football week. It is 2 days away. I'll start with the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic. I actually got the schedule in front of me. I'm going to preview all the games that I'm going to try to give score updates for on the debut of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live halftime update show that I'm going to be a part of at the Beck Center every Friday night. You're going to see me at halftime for all the games that we do on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And it really has been a privilege, not only to be on Sports Visions 92.1 with DJ Jones and Thrift Behringer talking high school football, but also talking high school football. Our preview show is going to be later tonight on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And then we're also going to have another show on Wednesday. We're going to drop our rankings. And then it is go time, as this is the week that Georgia Alabama Sports Live is getting to work. And we have got a fantastic team of broadcasters, play-by-play announcers, producers. And I got to be honest with you, last week when we were trying to practice and get the kinks out, we were at Pacelli for their scrimmage. And then on Friday, we were at Brookstone as they were taking on Chaco. And I am so privileged that we have so much talent around us. I mean, obviously, Dave Plata is going to be on the call for Pacelli this year, and then Scott Miller. What can you say? 2 legendary Hall of Fame broadcasters. And I tell you, I got chills when I was hearing Scott Miller and Mike Peacock on the call on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, as they do a fantastic job with Columbus State basketball. But it's great to be surrounded by the talent that we have at Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And I know this podcast is not going anywhere. I will do this podcast just anytime I just get the itch to talk sports. But the reason why I slowed down this podcast and I don't do it 5 days a week is because it's not on the radio station anymore. By the way, big shout out to Ryan O'Neal, because he is starting up an AM station up in Casita, Lynette, Alabama area. And I've already seen some of the people he's trying to get on the lineup, including Rod Peterson. I applaud him, and I told him, if you need me, I'm here. But it looks like his lineup's filling up. So I think those days of producing an hour-long show and sending it to Ryan, I think those days are done. I think that it's very time-consuming. But that's one of the reasons why I pushed myself to get that milestone when I reached 900 episodes almost a year ago. And then it took about a year to get 100 more episodes, because I've been doing this periodically, maybe once a week. I've gone an entire month without doing a show. During the summer breaks when we were at SEC Media Days, I did do a show. But I wanted to make sure that I try to at least do a show once a week, because there's so much to talk about in the world of sports that I feel that I can't say it all at Sports Visions or Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So I have this platform to talk about other things that are happening in the world of sports. And this is my platform. I'm okay with, putting the content. If you want to be a guest, just message me. This is going to be a platform where it's supplemental to the duties and responsibilities that I have at Georgia Alabama Sports Live and at Sports Visions. And I do want to thank DJ Jones and Thrift Behringer so much for allowing me to be on Sports Visions, and for Thrift for allowing me to be a part of Georgia Alabama Sports Live as we continue growing our brand and we get up and coming broadcasters. And I love just being a teacher. I was actually teaching one of our guys who wants to be a producer. I was with them for a couple hours yesterday, just teaching them the software and how to produce shows and produce content. And I enjoy passing that broadcasting knowledge on to the next generation of broadcasters. All right, without further ado, episode 1000, let's get right into the show. We have a fantastic show for you. I'm going to talk high school football week 1. I'm breaking down all the matchups. Every single team that's in the Chattahoochee Valley is going to get a score update. I'm going to talk who is in action for week 1. Also, the new AP poll came out in college football, and I will talk about my thoughts on how I feel that the teams are fared. You know, maybe a team is ranked a little too high, maybe a team is ranked a little too low. I'm actually going to preview week 0/week 1 in college football. It's a couple of weeks away. And with high school football, college football, we got NFL preseason. We had a guy kick a 70-yard field goal in preseason. We're going to talk all about it. I'm going to talk about Jackson Meeks. I have a theory that I think that he used bulletin board material because me and Thrift were talking about all these great receivers that played at Central, and I forgot to mention Jackson Meeks. Well, guess what? He ended up scoring a touchdown in a preseason game. So hats off to Jackson Meeks. I'm glad that I motivated you to score a touchdown in preseason. But let's go ahead and dive right into the show. High school football. This is the week. We are 2 days away from the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic. We even have 2 teams from our area that are going to be in this thing. And the team to kick it off is that team up I-185, the Callaway Cavaliers, led by legendary coach Pete Wiggins. They won the state title in 2020. They are taking on one of the top private schools in Georgia, Prince Avenue Christian. This is going to be 4:30 first kick at Kell High School in Marietta. Prince Avenue Christian, we know the history. Coach Vandergriff, his son was a highly anticipated recruit in the early 2020s. Prince Avenue Christian ended up winning 2 straight state titles in single A, and they were the runners-up in private last year, taking on a very talented Callaway Cavaliers team in 2A. I cannot wait for this matchup. This is going to be exciting. 8 o'clock, we got South Paulding taking on the home team, Kell. So on Thursday at West Forsyth, we've got probably one of the top private schools in the entire state of Georgia. We're talking they are a powerhouse in basketball, flag football, and most definitely football, Hebron Christian. And this is going to be at West Forsyth. They are taking on North Atlanta, 4:30 kickoff. And then we've got Douglas. They are taking on West Forsyth at 8 o'clock. So that is going to be on Thursday. On Friday, we've got 2 places for the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic at Buck Godfrey Stadium in Decatur. We have got Farrell taking on Cedar Grove. That's going to be at 2 p.m. And then at Barron Stadium in Rome at 5 o'clock, we've got the LaGrange Grangers. Went to the semifinals last year in 3A, led by their head coach, Matt Napier. And they don't have Malachi Fanning Render anymore, but they still have a very talented team, and they are taking on a powerhouse in 4A in Cass, just outside of Cartersville. At 8 o'clock, we've got Creekside, one of the top teams in 5A, taking on the Rome Red Wolves that are one of the top teams in 5A. These are some fantastic matchups. And like always, the tradition in the Dave Hunter Corky Kell Classic on Saturdays, these games all day at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Let's start with that 10 o'clock in the morning game on Saturday. St. Puig's taking on Dunwoody. This game's going to be at the Benz. And then we have 7A Brookwood out of Snellville taking on one of the powerhouses in 5A, Houston County, at 1 p.m. At 4 p.m., we've got McEachern taking on Walton. And then at 7 p.m., we've got Douglas County taking on North Gwinnett. There is another game that's not part of the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic that I want to make note because it's going to be on ESPN. It's Buford and Milton. That $62 million stadium that Buford has, I mean, it has gone viral on social media. This place is state of the art. They even have a little play practice area, a little mini field right outside of the end zone at the stadium. This is going to be incredible. I can't wait for that matchup on ESPN. And I may even try to get a score update on that as well during the halftime show. So here's what we've got on the slate for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We do have a Thursday night game between Hardaway and Jackson. We will be there. Mike Peacock, Mike Frost will be on the call. This is where me and my producer Ty are going to test the stream. We are going to do a halftime show, and it'll probably go live. We'll see, but we are going to practice the halftime show on that Thursday night. And then the other Thursday night game, we're not going to live stream this game up at Kinnett Stadium. We've got Columbus taking on Miller County. Here's what the lineup looks like for Georgia Alabama Sports Live on Friday. We've got Manchester and Harris County. This is the first time in over 20 years that Manchester is back at the county. A rivalry renewed. Two border counties. We've got Harris County. We've got Mayweather County. And it was a very close contested game last year up in Manchester. And finally, the Manchester Blue Devils make their way to Danny Durham Field. Rick Beach and Ethan Petit will be on the call for that game. Our game of the week on Georgia Alabama Sports Live is the Battle of North Columbus, Shaw and Northside at Kinnett Stadium, as Thrift Behringer and Rex Castillo will be on the call for that one. And then the debut of Brookstone on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. They are hosting Tatnall Square at Max Strong Stadium, and Scott Miller and Mike Peacock will be on the call. I tell you what, I got chills when I was hearing Scott Miller say Georgia Alabama Sports Live, because it felt official that he is part of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live family, and we are so excited to have a legendary broadcaster in Scott Miller. The other games for week one, the defending 2A champions, the coaching debut of Coach Jarvis Jones, the Carver Tigers going up to Fayetteville to take on the Whitewater Wildcats. Down at Otis Spencer Stadium, we've got the Kendrick Cherokees hosting the Walker School. The Calvary Christian Knights, they are going to be on the road down in Dawson taking on Terrell County. Pacelli, first-year coach Smitty Grider, they're going on the road in Macon to take on Stratford Academy. Up I-185 at Callaway Stadium, the Troup County Tigers hosting Villa Rica. And then we've got Chaco. They and their first-year head coach, Mike Nash, as they get ready to host Mount Zion, a great new era in Chaco football. And also we got the coaching debut of Coach Patrick Butler down in Lumpkin as Stewart County is hosting Ezekiel Academy. We got Central Talbotton. They are hosting Southwest Georgia STEM. We've got Marion County. They are on the road taking on Hawkinsville. Greenville is on the road down in South Georgia taking on Calhoun County. Taylor County is on the road taking on Jasper County. Schley County is hosting Seminole County. And then one other game I do want to make mention, actually a couple of games, as Heritage up in Noonan and their first-year coach, Levi Dunn, the former Calvary Christian assistant, they are taking on Towers on the road. I wanted to throw that one in there because Coach Dunn is a local product here to the Chattahoochee Valley, and I definitely want to follow Heritage and see what they do this season. And also the coaching debut for Coach Ryan Newman, the former defensive coordinator for the Carver Tigers. He is taking on Sumter County. That's going to be in Americus. It's going to be I think they're dubbing it the Battle for Flint River. So that is going to be an awesome lineup. Why don't we go ahead and take a break? When we come back, I want to dive into this AP poll. The new AP poll came out in college football, and I have some thoughts. Don't go anywhere. It is the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, and we'll be back after this.
Let's see. If something costs less, but people are happier with it, That sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month. And that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 866-89-BIBLE. That's 866-89-BIBLE. 866-89-BIBLE.
And welcome back here to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, episode 1000. It's a great day to be a sports fan in the Chattahoochee Valley. On this Monday, August the 11th, I'm going to try to have a show once a week. Sometimes it's on Mondays, sometimes it's on Tuesdays. Who knows? Who knows how I do this? I might even have it on Tuesdays, especially if there's like a big Monday night football game that I want to talk about. But I want to talk college football. The new AP poll is out. I have some thoughts. Just like in the coaches poll, Texas is number one. Is Texas too hyped? Because I know they got to the semifinals last year. They were a play away from tying that game against the defending champions, Ohio State. But are they hyped? We don't really have a whole lot of film on Arch Manning. I know that he might be great, and Coach Sark has a great team behind Arch. But they play kind of a watered-down schedule. They have to play Georgia and Athens. And you look at, they got to go to the Swamp to take on Florida. I think they got a pretty easy schedule. So it bodes well for Texas to get back to the SEC title. Remember the knock on Texas last year was, well, they got to the SEC title. They lost to Georgia twice, but they didn't have to play Alabama. They didn't have to play LSU. They didn't have to play Ole Miss. Well, Texas got a lot of breaks last year, but they just couldn't figure out Georgia. But maybe Texas will actually be tested right away. I was really hoping for number one versus number two, but unfortunately, Ohio State is number 3 in the AP poll. They will face Texas on Saturday, August the 30th. Big noon kickoff. It is Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt. Oh, man, I love these two announcers. But, I think that this should be a primetime game on ABC. But that's neither here or there. Fox has got the rights. Their big game is the big noon kickoff, so why not? All right. Penn State at number 2. I have a little bit of a problem with this. I've been hearing some talks from, casual sports fans who like to get on message boards, and these are your typical sports fans that like to call in shows. I used to be that guy. I used to try to call into the Paul Feinbaum show. Or, when I was a kid, I used to call into JT the Brick, and when I was living up in Atlanta, I would call 680 The Fan and 92.9 The Game and 790 The Zone. But the thing is, I understand why you think that Penn State should not be ranked number 2. Well, let's see the resume. They got the returning starting quarterback, Drew Aller, coming back. James Franklin is a very well-known and good coach, although, he hasn't really won the big game. They did get to the semifinals last year, although their path was a little bit easier, having to beat SMU and Boise State. Just when they got to play Notre Dame, they just couldn't get the job done. Is Penn State ranked too high? But they got their returning starting quarterback back. I mean, I don't even think they're the best team in the Big Ten. It's possible that Ohio State, which Julian Sayin is now the starting quarterback, so they got to replace Will Howard. But they do have Jeremiah Smith, who's a once-in-a-generation wide receiver talent. And they got Caleb Downs, which Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in college football. Yes, hats off to Ryan Day for winning the national championship. Great. You still didn't beat Michigan. Michigan fans are going to hold that over Ohio State. And guess what? They get to play Michigan in the Big House this year. And there's a good chance that Michigan, now that they have their quarterback, if Bryce Underwood becomes the quarterback they think he's going to be, Michigan's got a good shot in that game. So you got Texas number 1, Penn State number 2, Ohio State number 3, and then Clemson number 4. Look, Clemson played their way into the ACC title game last year. I like the team coming back. Cade Klubnik, pretty good quarterback, but remember, they got thumped by Georgia to open the season last year. So why would they be ranked ahead of Georgia? This I don't understand. I know that they got a favorable schedule. Got to play LSU to start the season. They lose that game, they're dropping far. I mean, there's a good chance that because you have two top 10 matchups in week one, that top 25 poll that comes out after week one, we may see like a Georgia that's ranked number 5 jump up to number 3. We may see a Notre Dame that has to play number 10 Miami. Let me rephrase that. 3 top 10 matchups because Miami's ranked number 10. So Georgia plays Marshall. They're at number 5. Notre Dame plays Miami. They're at number 6. Number 7, Oregon. And Oregon has a pretty favorable schedule. Of course, playing in the Big Ten. They've got some tough games coming up. Is Alabama underranked? Same with LSU. LSU is ranked 9th. There's a lot of people that like LSU because Garrett Nussmeier is a Heisman favorite. Also, Brian Kelly, this is the year where he's got to prove that can lead LSU to a national championship. So Alabama at number 8, I'm okay with that. I think they're going to thump Florida State. Look, Florida State, we're not the same 2-10 team last year. No, Florida State is not a top 25 team. They look bad, and I don't know if Mike Norvell can get it. It's starting to look like Willie Taggart. This Florida State team is looking like the Willie Taggart Florida State years. It just hasn't been the same since Jimbo Fisher left. I'm sorry. I know that Florida State fans think that the 2013 Florida State team is just going to come out of nowhere. Yes, this game is in Tallahassee. Alabama can travel, and Alabama can find a way to win this. I think they win this big over Florida State. So we got LSU at number 9. Taking on Clemson, huge game for both teams. Miami has to take on Notre Dame. So we got 3 top 10 teams going up against each other in week 1. How about that? Arizona State is ranked a little high. They don't have Cam Skattebo, and they kind of fell under the radar. But Arizona State at 11, we'll see. Illinois, you got the big bowl win over South Carolina. I still think Illinois is a little ranked high. South Carolina, I think they're undervalued at 13. I like Lenora Sellers, but they play Virginia Tech on Sunday. We got Michigan at number 14. How about Florida at number 15? They found a way to win all those tough games last year toward the end of the season. They inserted DJ Lagway into the starting lineup. And I honestly think Florida is going to be the dark horse in the SEC. Ranked number 14th. I don't have a problem with that. 15th, rather. SMU, Rhett Lashley, the defending ACC champions, got smacked in the college football playoff by Penn State. Ranked at 16. Sure, why not? Kansas State, they got to play Iowa State on week 0 in Ireland. That's going to be a fun game. Kansas State at 17. Oklahoma, another team you got to watch out for. John Mateer comes over from Washington State. I had the privilege of asking a question to Brent Venables at SEC Media Days. I do think that Oklahoma is ready for that brutal SEC schedule. They've got some favorable matchups, including hosting Auburn at home. They do get Tennessee on the road, though, but Oklahoma and also having to play Alabama on the road. But 6-7, they're not going 6-7 this year. Oklahoma's going to be fine. I think that John Mateer is going to be that quarterback that's going to lead Oklahoma to at least 8-9 wins. Texas A&M, suffering a tough loss to USC last year at number 19, taking on Texas San Antonio. Indiana, say what you want about Indiana, but they were in that game against Ohio State. The game they lost, they only lost to Notre Dame by 10. I mean, come on. You're ripping Indiana, but I do think that Indiana's got some good pieces. I just don't think that they were like deserving of a college football playoff berth just because they were undefeated. I mean, if that's the case, then just schedule a bunch of cupcakes. You'll get into the college football playoff regardless. So that's just my opinion on Indiana, but they are ranked right where they need to be at 20. And then we got Ole Miss. That's at 21. So Ole Miss, they lose Jackson Dart. He's now in the NFL. No problem. Lane Kiffin finds a way to get the quarterback, and they have the high-powered offense. And so I think Ole Miss is going to be fine. And let's look at number 22. We've got Iowa State. Remember, they got to play Kansas State in Dublin, Ireland in week 0. We got Texas Tech. All that oil money is paying off. Texas Tech may be a dark horse in the Big 12. I mean, I think the Big 12 is wide open because remember, the two teams last year that were favored to win the Big 12, Oklahoma State, who went 3-9, and then Utah with that Cam Rising debacle with all the injuries. What was he playing in his 7th, 8th year? Yeah, it just didn't work out. And then, even Colorado had a chance to compete for the Big 12 title. Tennessee at number 24, they have really fallen off. I think that the voters, they don't like the fact that Nico Iamaleava is now at UCLA. Not a big fan of Joey Aguilar as the media, although I think any quarterback can work under Josh Heupel's system. By the way, I did say this on my social media. I got a bone to pick. I remember 2009, Tennessee had a chance to beat Alabama. Look, it's been successful the last 3 years, 2 out of the last 3 years, and Tennessee has beaten Bama in Knoxville the last 2 seasons. But if you remember, as Tennessee was getting ready to kick the ball and Terrence Cody blocked it, took his helmet off. I was making a joke, but I actually really put some thought into this. He takes his helmet off. Why is that not a 15-yard penalty? And Tennessee should have had a chance to go down and kick a shorter field goal, but that's neither here or there. I thought I was being funny, but Tennessee fans are still hurting after that loss because that could have derailed Alabama's perfect season in their first national championship under Nick Saban. All right, and then finally Boise State, who got the easiest luck of the draw last year. They don't have Ashton Genty, but they are still at number 25. I think that right now Boise State looks like they are the team that, the group of 5 conference play, that they are ranked the highest. Some of the other receiving votes, BYU, they're going to compete in the Big 12 along with Utah. Baylor, big test on Friday, week 1, taking on Auburn. Louisville, we got USC, Georgia Tech. I'm shocked that Georgia Tech is not ranked. I think Georgia Tech is going to sneak up on people. Auburn did get 10 votes, and Colorado got 1 vote. So I think that Coach Prime he's got some bulletin board material. He doesn't have Shiloh Sanders, Shadur Sanders, or Travis Hunter, but that's okay because they got Juju Lewis, one of the best quarterbacks to come into that draft class. And by the way, Shadur Sanders played very well in his preseason game as the Cleveland Browns taking on the Carolina Panthers. I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, looking at the schedule, because I want to talk week 1 or week 0, if you want to call it, that is coming up not this weekend, but next weekend, and starting with that game in Dublin, Ireland. Is it Dublin, Ireland? Let me check and see. I'm going to look and see if that is Dublin, Ireland. Yeah, I got it right. Iowa State taking on Kansas State. We got the 22 ranked team taking on the 17th ranked team, both Big 12 teams. And then we've got UNLV hosting Idaho State. It's the coaching debut for UNLV, Dan Mullen, which I think that UNLV is going to be one of those dark horse teams that could get into the group of 5 for the college football playoff. They just got to figure out Boise State. Fresno State taking on Kansas. Lance Leopold, he has done a great job turning around Kansas, but they went 5-7 last year. So hopefully he can get Kansas back to where they need to be. We got Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, Stanford, and Hawaii. That's going to be the 7:30 game on CBS. And That is it for week 0. Not a whole lot of football games in the FBS. And then week 1 starts Thursday night. We've got Boise State that is going to be down in Tampa taking on South Florida. We've got San Diego State hosting Stony Brook, Ohio on the road taking on Rutgers, East Carolina taking on NC State, Bowling Green, and the coaching debut of Eddie George taking on Lafayette. That's Lafayette. Lafayette is that city in Alabama. Delaware State, Louisiana Monroe hosting St. Francis, Wyoming, Akron, Missouri, and Eli Drinkowitz taking on Central Arkansas, Elon taking on Duke, Oklahoma State, who had a disastrous year last year going 3-9, taking on UT Martin, Minnesota hosting Buffalo. We've got Cincinnati hosting Nebraska, and Wisconsin hosting Miami of Ohio, UAB taking on Alabama State, Houston taking on Stephen F. Austin. On Friday, Army hosting Tarleton State, Wake Forest hosting Kennesaw State. We've got the Duke Mayo Classic, part of the Duke Mayo Classic, UNC Charlotte taking on App State. We've got Illinois hosting Western Illinois, Baylor and Auburn. And then the de facto 1990 national championship, it's Georgia Tech and Colorado. The winner will get the national championship for 1990 outright. I'm just kidding. No, but it's nice that these two schools are playing, and I think that Georgia Tech is going to surprise some people. And I could pretty much take up 2 hours going through the entire schedule for week 1. So what I'm going to do is just talk about the top 25 matchups. I already talked about number 1 versus number 3, Texas and Ohio State. At the Horseshoe, Tennessee is hosting Syracuse in the Aflac kickoff. That's actually a game in Atlanta. It's not really hosting. Indiana, Old Dominion, Penn State, Nevada, Georgia hosting Marshall, Alabama on the road taking on Florida State. We've got Oregon taking on Montana State, Iowa State taking on South Dakota. Not sure if Iowa is still going to be ranked after, they might end up losing to Illinois in week 0. Oklahoma taking on Illinois State, Florida taking on Long Island. I mean, these are all cupcake games for these teams. North Dakota taking on Kansas State. We've got LSU, Clemson. That's going to be 7:30 on ABC. Clemson is a 4.5-point favorite. And why not? They're playing at their Death Valley. But that's going to be one of those must-watch games. I actually am going to be glued to the TV to watch Texas, Ohio State, and then LSU, Clemson. Yeah, I'll see Notre Dame, Miami. That game's going to be on Sunday. But I like the fact that these games are spread out, that we do have games on Sunday. We've got a doubleheader, Virginia Tech and South Carolina in the Aflac kickoff on Sunday, and then Notre Dame and Miami also in the Aflac kickoff. And then on Monday, we have got the coaching debut of Bill Belichick. This game on Monday, because it's going to be the only game, I'm talking only football game in the country, is going to get a massive rating. I honestly think TCU, North Carolina, is going to get a huge rating. I'm just excited college football's here. I mean, this is great. Going to transition over to NFL. The Falcons had a preseason game against the Detroit Lions, and Jackson Meeks, the former Central Red Devils, scored a touchdown, and he is another one of those wide receivers that played at Central that I forgot to mention on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show, but I'm mentioning him now. Big shout out. And unfortunately, there was a scary injury, and they ended the game with 12 minutes to go. That was the right move. That's what needed to happen. It's preseason. The players we got to be considerate about their safety. We had the Browns beat the Panthers, and I was very impressed with Shadur Sanders. Although he is playing against mostly backups, we know that Shadur is capable of throwing the football. He's got good accuracy, but I think that the media is really hyping this up, that he should be the starter in Cleveland. And then we also had a kicker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I want to shout this guy out because he kicked a 70-yard field goal. Cam Little, unbelievable. Yeah, I'm gonna do it like when I called that Glenwood Valley game. Unbelievable. No, 70 yards. I know it was preseason. This is where you want to try to see if you're capable of kicking a 70-yard field goal. I mean, and it wasn't even in the high altitude. That was probably the most impressive thing, that it wasn't even in the high altitude. All right, quick hitters before I get out of here. Caitlin Clark, 10 straight games missed. This has been a disaster for the WNBA. This is exactly not what they want. It's awful that she can't even play. The reason why they're not doing a timetable is because they don't want to say out for the season, because people will start selling their season tickets and they just won't go. There's always that hope that she might play tonight. And so that's why they're dragging this along. But that's neither here or there. Cleanstones get the 5 out of 6 in the 6-game series against the Rocket City Trash Pandas. They get ready for a 6-game series against the Biloxi Shuckers. And then they are back at Synovus Park on August the 19th against the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. This has really been a fun show. I can't believe 1,000 shows is in the books, and can't wait for 1,001. Well, it's been truly a blast. But before I close the show, I want to talk about, some of these sports personalities have gotten fired. I'm speaking of the elephant in the room, with Shannon Sharpe getting fired by ESPN, Joy Taylor getting fired by Fox Sports 1. Look, they're starting, mainly Shannon Sharpe, because he's got his Club Shay Shay podcast. They're starting to become bigger than the brand. When you have somebody like Shannon Sharpe, he could do his own platform, do his own thing, and still have success. Joy Taylor, it's going to take work. I actually think that she is going to be even more popular. And if you want to look up Joy Taylor, obviously for obvious reasons, because Jason Whitlock has a crush on her or something, because she is going to elevate her brand. She's going to continue doing podcasts. She's going to continue putting her name out there. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but she no longer works at Fox Sports 1 because of the whole allegations that happened a year ago, and I totally get it. But she's going to have success. Mark my words. I do want to say I'm excited the high school football is back. Check out the halftime show on Friday, as I will bring all the score updates from around the Chattahoochee Valley. I'm going as far as Callaway, Lynette, going all the way down to Eufaula, Sumter County. I'm going all the way down to Randolph Clay. I'm going as far east as Taylor County. I mean, we're going to just take the entire Chattahoochee Valley and give you score updates. Thank you for tuning in to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Like the Facebook page. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. By the way, my Facebook page is on hiatus for 2 months. Give me 60 days so I can change that name. But listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we will see you next time.